I'll call to order this District of Clearwater regular council meeting for Tuesday, May the 3rd at 2 o'clock. Just remind everybody to use your mics because we are on Zoom. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are fortunate to be gathered together on unceded territory of the Sim people who have been caretakers of this land since time immemorial. Are there any late items anybody'd like to add to the agenda? If not, seeing none, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Moved by Councillor Banford, seconded by Councillor Haring. All those in favor? That passes. Adoption of the minutes. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none. All the motion. Moved by Councillor Frizzle, seconded by Councillor Taylor. Thank you. All those in favor, and that passes. Councillor Mackenzie is away doing some sort of emergency meeting with work. So nothing on 7, 8, 9, or 10. Moving straight on to item 11, Mayor's report. I did send this out to council members and staff via email, but I'll just read it out for the record and for the public. On April 21st, I attended the TNRD regular meeting in Kamloops, followed by the committee of the whole meeting on the 22nd. A couple good presentations, including a follow-up at that meeting by BC Wildfire to discuss the greater regional strategy. I do have a slide deck of their presentation. I believe did I send that out to council? Yeah, okay, so you kind of get that, and then obviously that's a continuing conversation. On the 23rd of April, I hosted the pitching event. I think we had about 100 people out, and I took 600 pounds of garbage dump myself, and I know a couple citizens took very large amounts on their own to the dump. So really good turnout. Nice to see everybody out there, and a lot of positive vibes going on there. 24th, had a fun time testing positive for COVID for the first time. Yay! Joined the club finally. On the 26th, I attended the Clearwater local health planning table via Zoom. A very wide-ranging and deep discussion there. On the 28th, I attended the Tier Health Mayors and Chairs Roundtable with a special presentation on addiction and opioids. I also have a slide deck for that, and I'm just going to write a note to myself to send you out. There's some really great information slides in there about the current situation, plus just related to small towns and opioid and other drug addiction and crises around here, and what Interior Health is working on, but also updated stats as of this spring, and it's scary. I've done, on that day, I started doing interviews about the initial attack crew stuff, as did Mayor Stamer. Have done a flurry of interviews on that over the last few days. On the 29th of April, wrapped up the best small town in BC with Kimberly coming in over Ucluelet. Now I have to put the clue in Ucluelet. I've been saying Ucluelet for years, so apparently that's wrong. And it could be. I don't have a clue in Ucluelet, but they like to go by Yuki. That's what their local nickname is. So, but Kimberly is on cloud 9, so it's good for Kimberly for winning, and I still put a curse on Sun Peaks for what they did. On May the 2nd. We got, obviously there's a fire up on the across the valley here at Jones Creek. A lot of concern calls on that, and got a call from Hugh Murdoch from BC Wildfire with an update about 3 p.m. and I think I sent that out to council. As of this morning, my understanding is the fire was still going, and that's it. Moving on to council reports. Councillor Banford.
Thank you, Mayor Blackwell. It's a pretty quiet time for me the last 2 weeks. The one thing I did do and stepped in for the mayor and went to the Hockey Association, local Hockey Association's end of the year banquet. Really well attended. Really a fun evening, actually. Lots of kids and the whole thing. Got to see all the awards. So congratulations to all the people who won awards. It was well organized. And especially to Councillor Taylor, who is the Volunteer of the Year Award. All those things behind the scenes. So good job. And that's pretty much my report for the last 2 weeks.
Thank you. I'm glad you could do that. Councillor Frizzle.
I also had a quiet couple of weeks, but I did do a walkabout on the trail behind the hospital and Evergreen Acres with the hospice and Manshed's representatives, and a spot was picked out for the grieving post. That's what the hospice calls it. We called it wind booth, so whatever they end up calling it. So it's a beautiful area where you can, they're going to set them up the booth behind a bench so that somebody can sit and just pull the phone down and be able to talk and look out on the river and the mountains and just have a quiet time with their loved ones. So that should be installed this week, and the hospice is working on putting plaques up, so it'll explain why it's there and who put it up and whatnot. So yeah, I think they'll be good for people. Yeah, and that's my report.
Thank you. Councillor Haring.
Not too much in the way of activity, but one thing I did want to plug is this is Emergency Preparedness Week. So I imagine that's why somebody started that fire in Jones Creek, just to get us all thinking about it. Yeah, indeed. But yeah, just a plug for everyone out there. Get your emergency kits ready. Be on the lookout. Freshet is a few weeks away, and fire season is maybe here, maybe a few weeks away. I don't know. Depends on what happens out there. But yeah, we all have to be ready for this summer for sure. And that's all I've got.
School door.
Oh, it's lots of hammer swinging. Exactly.
Oh, good. Cool. Well, thank you for your report. As mentioned, Councillor Mackenzie is away. Councillor Sim.
Thanks. So first of all, just to acknowledge the passing of Lloyd Strickland and the service that was held on the 30th, and just the gap that leaves in the community, and just speaking to the family and just adhering to kind of his values. And what he meant is that no matter, you know, where your wind blew, he had a space for you in his heart. So I think that's a big one for it. So that was just to be acknowledged. The certainly the local health planning table and discussions that were had around emergency management, how the different groups can work together. I know there are local physicians just during the power outage. They had really they recognized how vulnerable you are without being prepared. And certainly having a number of new people in town, I thought it was really good that a lot of people involved with health who have just arrived were able to use that table to meet. And Mayor, I thought that the exchange of information was really good, like learning, you know, how the nurses are prepared and what's already in place. And then I know that the hospital is just looking forward to being involved with some of the exercises that are being done with the district, just to execute that. So just really being prepared. So on the heels of what you're saying, Councillor Haring. Also, I really appreciated the reports on the fire and what's happening out there. I wondered about the district. I thought it was great that the fire departments took some of the lead on dialoguing out. Where does the district fit? Where is our communications on those types of things? What are the thoughts moving forward?
Well, I can
Yeah.
answer where I was coming from, and I know Mr. Thomas can speak, but I believe he received a call. We weren't in direct communication with BC Wildfire until after. Maybe they were as the fire chief.
So the fire chief responded and his team responded to the call early in the morning because they were not sure the actual location of the fire, whether it was in the district or not in the district. Once it was determined it was not in the district, referrals was made to BC Wildfire Service, and the matter is handled through that agency directly. In terms of communicating that outwardly as a corporate entity, I think we could do better in that area, and we would endeavor to do so, but we don't have a standard for messaging outward in that way prepared at the moment.
Yeah, I just wondered about that. And I think those are all fair comments, and I thought the fire department did a great job of it. I found it really interesting, the anxiety levels that go with it, and maybe that's part of the emergency planning. I thought that was a good trial run for what's to come, but I see Councillor Haring had something there.
I'm always hesitant to get involved in messaging anything like that, because having been on the other side of it many times, it's really easy to send the wrong information. And that's one of the reasons BC Wildfire is very slow to provide public information, because you can lead people down the wrong rabbit hole very quickly if they think it's on the wrong side of the road, wrong property, all that kind of stuff. So I find anyways, it's better to defer to the lead agency and produce no information whatsoever.
Or refer.
Well, you just refer to the main
And
agency,
that's what I'm
right?
saying. So
Yeah,
that alone as a communication
Just
strategy is just.
talk to BC
defer.
Wildfire, yeah.
Anyway, I found that interesting how that went. And I also noted the comments about the forestry working group and bringing their thoughts to it. Is there any timeline on that or no, not yet? Or should I wait for the?
We're looking at time to, when the best time would be, kind of a thing. A couple of issues come up, and I think larger group would probably meet later, I think.
We're just scheduling it now, but it's looking like there'll be a meeting next Friday between with at least the mayor, Councillor Banford, and George Burko, and we're going to reach out to the rest of the working group. We tried to schedule a meeting, but there wasn't really any time that week that worked for everybody. And then George has some matters he wants to bring to council at the next meeting.
And so then lastly, there was an inquiry that had been brought forward by just some of the businesses down this way, just asking about that 30-kilometer with the increased traffic from the camp, is if it's still going to go for May the 15th, or if the district had discussed about delaying it till maybe June the 15th. You know, I know we've talked about this before. There is a lot of traffic there. I just thought I would bring that up. I don't even know what to do with it. Just sharing, caring.
Okay, we'll let staff look into that. I don't even know if it's written into a bylaw.
I don't know either. It's something that we've kind of done around this time. We've heard from people where there's some frustration about the fact that it's a rainy May day and everybody's going 30 for the point of the parks. You know, and I get that. And then there's that big backlog. I mean, there's lots of traffic waiting. Is it something to consider? Can I leave it with staff?
I think I'll let Mr. comment.
Yeah.
Mr. Thomas looks like he wants to comment.
He
Go right
does.
ahead.
I'm seeking clarification. Is council directing staff to take a specific action, look at something, or change something? Or both?
I think at this point, we don't actually, I think by the time we start this, it'll be after May 15th anyways. But yeah, I'm wondering where that is actually, is it written into a bylaw?
I would have to check.
Is it a policy?
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways, there's the 50. If we just said it as a policy.
I think the standard.
No, it goes right into September.
The standard. Remember right, the standard.
We figure out where that sits.
I might ask is that maybe the RCMP touch base with them. I'm sure that they've been doing a lot of traffic patrolling and just getting an idea, and they've got some great information. Anyway, I leave it there. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Sim.
Oh, one more is that the girls soccer team this weekend. Sorry,
Yes.
Lucy, Councillor Taylor, you will probably talk about that. But if anybody wants to volunteer or anything, I think that there's still some spots. So,
Okay, Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor Blackwell. So I attended with the Trails Task Force. We did a walk of the proposed trail development from the Park Drive down to, I guess, Clearwater Village Road. The really steep drop down to the flats. Yeah, I didn't realize just how steep of a climb that was. So it's going to be interesting as we build out that trail. So we did a walk with Bannister and just kind of looking at the options there and starting to discuss kind of timelines and approach for that trail. And then on the 26th, I attended the minor hockey banquet. Thank you, Councillor Banford, for being there to represent council. I was kind of there with my hockey hat on, so really appreciate Councillor Banford joining us for that event. And very honoured to be recognised as Volunteer of the Year and to share that award with the President, Elijah Wick. And then, yeah, so this tonight we have our first playoff game for the girls soccer. So if anyone, if we get out of council early and you want to go and watch that game, it starts at 4 at the field here against Barrier. And then the youth soccer are away in Ashcroft. The U10 and U13 team are away for a tournament in Ashcroft this weekend. And the other plug for the weekend is the Speedway has its opening weekend this weekend. So another great event for people to get out, and I wish them well with their season. And that's my report.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't even know about the Speedway. Yay. So this is the first playoff game for girls soccer? Is that
For the
right?
girls' high school soccer team, yeah. So it's their playoffs. And then if they're successful at playoffs, they go to zones. And if they're, I think that's in Kelowna. And then if they're successful there, they would go to provincial.
Oh, that's awesome. Let's hope they have some of the same luck that the boys did. Go ahead, Councillor Sim.
Hey, and just a little plug for this Clearwater Soccer is that there is a 16+ mixed team that's representing Clearwater, and they beat the Kamloops team that typically goes to the finals. I know. So
Oh, that's some ammo. I got TNRD this Thursday. I think Ken Christian's going to get a sharp elbow there and knock him on the cowboy hat for that one. Anyways,
why?
well, no, I mean, if Clearwater's
Oh,
beating.
I know.
Yeah,
And I
that's
want to
good.
point out that most of the people are like under 20. So
Yeah, yeah.
it was really exciting what's happening for the culture.
Okay, good stuff. Moving on, nothing under item 13, item 14.1, Committee of the Whole reports, government operations, Councillor Taylor.
So we have the wrap up of the budget coming along in the bylaws later in this meeting, and our next committee of the whole meeting will be September 6th, when we'll probably be talking about 2023 budgets, would be my guess. So we'll be meeting September 6th.
Thank you. Community and Economic Development and Infrastructure, Chair Banford.
Our next meeting will be June the 7th.
Okay, moving on, Parks and Rec, Social Development, Councillor Sim.
There's a recommendation that council enter a committee of the whole meeting of the Government Operations Standing Committee as it relates to Parks, Recreation, and Social Development. No?
Second that?
I'll second that.
Oh, hold on, wrong
What?
motion.
Well, that's what I thought. That's why I just added in there. I amended.
Okay, you're seconding that, Councillor Taylor, is that what you're saying?
Sorry, I didn't hear the amendment.
So just that council enter a committee of the whole meeting of Parks, Recreation, and Social
Oh,
Development.
yes. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I second that.
Thank you. All those in favor? And I pass the chair over to Councillor Sim.
Great. So staff has put together some items for future discussion in no particular order. So Mr. Thomas, I'll turn it to you.
Sure. There are a couple of items council would have to discuss fairly soon because they also impact park recreation and social development portfolios, including the fees related to park recreation, so North Thompson Sportsplex operations. At the moment, some of those fees are not categorized in the fees and charges bylaw, and so it becomes a very interesting process for how those fees are applied to the public. Policy review for advertising and sponsorship. Those policies are currently in place. However, I think they're at a great time to start reviewing some of those policies to make sure they remain current. Policy and procedure review for grant and aid policy, a great opportunity for that as well. As we saw in the last grant and aid requests, it didn't really fit directly into the policies. Policy and ballot review, permissive tax exemption. I believe October 31st is the deadline for that, legislative deadline for permissive tax exemption. And if I recall from some of council's discussion last year, there was some interest in opening that up and considering which entities may or may not qualify for some of the exemption. And the Sportsplex expansion study, which will get on the way as soon as the budget is actually approved.
Any Councillor Banford?
Just a quick question. Looking at the related fees and charges bylaw, are we looking at combining all of our fees into one bylaw? because the cemetery fees are in there and there will be a recommendation to sort of do a review on that. So this could be part of a larger issue, this particular thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. This issue is twofold. One, addressing the gaps that currently exist in the recreation portfolio for fees and charges, including healthy living programs, making sure some of the fees that are paid to instructors even are captured in a policy or bylaw somewhere. And the second piece is making sure that all the fees that are within the municipal portfolio are actually scrubbed from the individual bylaws or policy, it would be a bylaw, and then consolidated in one bylaw so that when council is actually doing the budget, we're looking at all the fees, all the taxation at the same time, and then council can balance those out as is necessary to fund operations.
Thank you.
Further questions? So one question is, we've got this for future discussion. Do you have a timeline for some of these to bring back?
On May 17th, I'll be preparing a report on council's strategic plan performance, or the District of Clearwater strategic plan for performance over the last 4 years, and also a proposal for council to consider on priority recommendation from administration, perhaps doing some workshop with council, perhaps doing some committee of a whole style sessions to figure out the policy direction of council going forward.
Thank you. So I know on the 17th, we haven't necessarily set a committee of the whole time for that. So are you looking at as just taking that as a general conversation for council? Are you going to throw it through a working group? What are your thoughts for that on the 17th?
Haven't finalized that yet.
Okay, so that's good.
But
That's it.
more to come.
Right. And then also to that is at the last meeting, we had a number of things to consider under finance. And I just wondered if those things are also going to be at the May 17th.
The discussion for future items list would be from all 3 standing committees would be brought forward with a recommended prioritization from which council can adjust or affirm. And from there, we can go and look at each individual policy or bylaw and move forward with them.
Okay, I have one more, but I want to see if there's anything else here. Councillor Taylor? No, okay.
No,
With
nothing.
actually, I'm going to have 2. So the related fees for the North Thompson Sportsplex, is that going to be for 2024 or 2023? I just note that with hockey season, I think they've set budgets. So would that impact that?
I don't foresee it will impact that. It's more along the lines of setting what the new standard will be. Council, of course, has the flexibility of deciding when those take effect.
Okay, that's lovely. And then the final question, which isn't here, but which I think is a really important part, is that social development and definitely that culture piece. I'm hoping that that will also be addressed on the 17th. We've heard about that in some different meetings around tables, that culture and humility. Other communities are maybe doing it a bit better than us, and how the district can be a bit more of a leader on that and setting a tone for that inclusion piece.
Do you want me to put that as topic piece areas, or is there a
I
specific
know
area?
that you've given it some thoughts, like just based on some feedback you've had at some other meetings. But if we're going to talk about priorities, it wasn't something that came up in our strategic plan. But it is something that informing this committee, we've obviously identified as a priority. So just bringing that up and how do we actualize it and how do we get that ball moving? I think we need to say something.
I'll bring it forward for the committee.
All right, thank you. Moving on, May Day events, next steps, just a summary on that. You know, Dr. Bonnie Henry, she was so lovely, but yet her timing was awful. Lifting some of the restrictions so late in April. People were really keen. I've written an email about it, but there just wasn't enough to put boots on the ground to do something like a parade. What I will say is that the slow pitch tournament's going to go ahead, and Rotary is getting in contact with them to run a barbecue down that way. There's been some other help, but there was definitely enthusiasm. I went to the Chamber of Commerce, their first social. It was so fun. I thought I need a business to join the chamber. Like, it was great. It was really, really fun. And they, lots of great ideas. Many people had they had made their plans, but they had said, well, look, we can get a truck, we can do that. But it wasn't enough to happen. But there is some impetus there to really work with the chamber and create some opportunities there. Yeah, or sooner, like, you know, I mean, my new best friend is Craig from Double R Pizza. And he loves the idea of a street party down on the flats. So it was just a fun night. Anyway, so if anybody has any questions about May Day event, it's just a good year. I wouldn't mind putting out a thank you to Rotary. They did hold the torch for 25 years. And so whether I'd like to make a motion that we extend a letter to Rotary, extending our thanks to them.
Yeah, second that. Yeah, I'm in favor of that.
Okay, all in favor? Great, thanks. I'll leave it to staff for that, just to acknowledge their big, and the fact that they're still going to do the barbecue. Those people are awesome. Clearwater Rotary Club, is that what that was intended for on that one? I don't know who made this agenda, so I'd like some help.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, it is.
Okay, and I think I just do have to loop back to that May Day next steps was there any, because there was some enthusiasm, where does council fit on doing something for June or rolling into something else? Mayor, you felt that there was some good enthusiasm around pitch-in, and if people are gonna get excited about pitch-in, it's super, it's one of our.
Yeah, I mean, Canada Day, unfortunately, Canada Day falls on a Friday and a long weekend, so it's a hard sell when you create an extra Canada Day weekend or something. But yeah, I think those seem to go. Definitely. But yes, I think we should aim for a very positive Canada.
My question on that is, I know I'm not going to be here for that because I love the fact that it's a Friday. My experience has been in the past that Canada Day has been very successful down at the lake with a lot of visitors, a lot of buses. I don't know if we're going to see that. So just wondering what that looks like and who's going to take that on. So I throw that out there. Councillor Banford, I saw your hand.
No, it's just that in some of the correspondence about the next steps and stuff, I know there was some thought, I think one of the things with art in the park or something from one group. So maybe if you look at things in another car rally was another thing, which in the past has been fairly successful kind of a thing. Maybe even reaching out to other groups to say, can you organize this for August? Can you do this for July or whatever? And some of that things and sort of lend a hand with some of those things. At least it's maybe one event per month that people could look at.
Yeah, so one of the things that sort of came up was doing the bite-sized pieces is maybe the slow lead up that builds a little easier. And doing something like summer days, which could be a very simple thing. It incorporates district assets and we do have people. So for example, doing a business disc golf or even families, and you do that. And we ask our disc golf leader to assist with that and maybe do something there, tie it into the district. Doing an ice cream social, maybe tie that into the last day of soccer for Clearwater Youth Soccer. So find ways to partner. I'd love to work with the Healthy Living Coordinator, get people out on even the pickleball. I found out we've got pickleballs and rackets so people can try it. How can we do that? How do I do it as a role of council? How can this happen without being a burden to staff? In the past, events have been primarily taken on by council. How can we make this happen so it's more successful given the fact that we've got some lead time? I won't do anything in July or August. I'm really clear about that one.
As far as late June or something, start exactly what you say, get the word out there and see what together. Just on the info board, see where it goes. Be willing to come out of the woodwork to help with this. I think Dennis disc golf Gaffard probably loved it. We actually said the word disc golf.
He might run again.
It's like a bat signal. He'll start flying on over here, throwing frisbees at us, but.
Okay,
yeah,
well, why don't I do that and then bring it back to the next council meeting? Does that work?
yeah, see who wants to come out of the woodwork to do something. I'm quite sure between horse riders and car show people and all that sort of thing, anybody that has an excuse to want to do something. Bring forward, and the farmers markets always have it.
Yeah,
So
starting May 7th.
that can be a hub.
And my other sort of follow-up to that is for council's consideration, is looking ahead at other communities. They actually have a separate entity from council that does that. Does anybody have any experience with that? Ms. Klassen, do you?
Yes, usually it's a service agreement with the district to hold these events. And it could be for a year, it could be for 3 years, it's a certain.
That sounds like something we need to follow up on. That sounds exciting. Because that is external from the district.
It's external and independent.
Is it a service club that does that, or?
It can be a service club.
And
It was, sometimes it's a downtown
DBA, or
DBA kind of,
Yeah.
and they might hold a few events,
do
and
they
things like that.
self-fund? Do they-
Arts councils. But they usually have a service agreement, so there's an expectation.
Yeah,
And,
fair enough.
yeah.
So it would be like our events budget, but rolled into a service agreement that a different entity would take on. So
It's a bigger community.
I think Lumbee does that. They have one and they do well. Mr. Thomas.
I think this also needs to be balanced against the portfolio of our staff. What are the expectation of staff internally, and what are we going to be outsourcing externally, and make sure there are as little conflict and more collaboration as possible.
I think that's really wise. I think that the reason for the question is because as our staff gets up to speed, there has been the caution of too much being downloaded on staff. So the question is directed to maybe offset that. The collaboration piece is key. How do you suggest we go about that, finding some harmony and yet some success? Yeah.
I think the first step is defining what the portfolio looks like, right? I know there are pressures to expand, but sometimes expansion compromises quality rather than quantity. And so there needs to be a determination from perhaps a committee responsible for this portfolio at first. Take a look at what is the portfolio going to look like, recommend to council, finalize the portfolio. Then we can assess the staff, what portion of that portfolio could be done by staff internally and what portion should be referred to a service agreement model externally or some other mechanism.
Other comments? Great. Recommendation that council rises from the committee of the whole. All in favor?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Sim. Standing committee reports, Joint Services Advisory Committee, Councillor Haring.
Next meeting is July 11th, and I missed the last one. So was there anything to update, Mayor
I
Blackwell?
missed half of it too. The standard ticking off about transit. Yada. Anything else that I can't remember, Mr. Thomas? Oh, yes. Oh, yes, and we did. Director Schaefer, myself, did meet with
We're losing you a little bit, Mayor Blackwell.
yeah, that's
on the
because I'm
mic.
losing my voice. Director Schaefer and myself did meet with the MOTI, Sam Pantaleo, I believe is how I pronounce his name, to discuss the Wells Gray intersection. There'll be pedestrian activated signal lights there, hopefully by the end of the summer, as well as another engineering look at what needs to happen there in the future. Still no timeline on a redevelopment of that intersection, but it was pointed out by myself and others that there were some blind spots added to
Good.
the angles with some of the signposts that actually in some ways, in my personal opinion, make it worse, but MOTI says that they have to work within standards as well, but they are going to have a look at it as they do the rewiring and everything else there. Expecting the pedestrian crossing probably will not be in place with the flashing lights part of it until September at least, because it is going through a design study and then contract and then installation.
That's good.
Yes. Same old, same old. Okay. Right there. Select committee reports, Trails Task Force. Councillor Taylor,
Next meeting is May 9th.
May 9th. Thank you. Community Act Dev Task Force, Councillor Frizzle.
Yeah, the meeting's to be announced hopefully in the middle of May.
Thank you. Wednesday, I have to do some study on it.
That's next week.
Cemetery Advisory Committee, Councillor Banford.
Our next meeting is May the 11th.
Thank you. Committee representation reports, Tourism Wells Gray.
There's a meeting tomorrow at the Information Center, and I have to say, great work has been done about getting the Information Center up and going. The staff complement is better than expected. You know, they're ready to open. There's going to be a bit of a splash to it, and all those growing pains, they just worked through it brilliantly. So I think it's really good. I still want to keep an eye on the fact that I think we still need a budget for events and tournament coordination. I'm trying to help out right now with the Footy Fest. It takes a ton of time. And that is something I really think that we should make sure that the community is still getting some direct benefit from. So that's my only word of caution, but kudos to the group and all that they've done. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, good on them.
Yep.
It's a monumental task to take that on for sure. Wells Gray Community Forest Commission, Councillor Banford.
Yep, we don't have a meeting scheduled yet. They'll come up as needed.
I believe there's a society meeting later this week. Friday for AGM. There's Thursday AGM. Yeah. Or open meeting.
Which is different than commission, yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's open to the public for attendance. If I remember. See nodding heads back there. So I'm at CNRD that day, but I'm gonna hope to make it back. Staff reports. You have in front of you the CAO report on page 15 of your agenda. Lots going on once again. Also attached is your updated calendar for the year. Any questions of Mr. Thomas or comments from Mr. Thomas? Go ahead, Councillor Frizzle.
Just one question on the transit. Have you heard from Bilo on the, no, nothing yet.
Waiting on it. The representative from Collier's was away on vacation and returned and is following up with Bilo.
I have a question.
Councillor Sim. has a
Where
question.
is where's this calendar on the website or in there? Is it loaded yet, or you were presenting to council and then I couldn't find it under council committee, but maybe I am looking incorrectly.
We'll find the link and forward it to you, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I actually find it difficult. The TNRD one. Civic Web to find theirs as well. Sometimes.
Well, I went in Civic Web.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't in council meetings. It's got all the committee chairs, but it doesn't have the meeting schedule. So,
That's something to look at. For
but because it's nice looking, so it'd be nice to have that. Thanks.
Hey, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, just a question on the May 12th special council meeting. Do we have a time slot for that?
The May 12th special council meeting.
Does council has a preference?
The later the better. What works for you, Councillor Taylor?
Yeah. The later the better. Just
4 o'clock.
yeah, that would be great. That'd be perfect if it works for everyone else.
Can we do 4 o'clock or does that work?
We will check with the auditor because
Oh,
we
right.
need them
we
to
have
be
the
present
auditor,
for
right.
that. It's
So,
the
okay,
auditor's
so
financial
the later
report.
the better. So
Yeah, even 3 o'clock would work for me.
Okay, so, yeah.
We'll confirm with the auditor and circle back to council.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Taylor, you have a second on that?
No, I had a question is, we just need quorum on that? Is that, I know that there's one meeting that we only need.
Yeah, I don't think I think it's standard. We just need quorum to pass on that one. So yeah, if
It's a one item agenda. Is that what we're doing?
Well, it would be.
No, it likely a few other stuff coming in. But
Yeah. if you have a conflict with that, then touch base with Mr. Thomas. Yeah, but yes, I don't think we'll need quorum for that. It's just like a standard meeting. Sorry, we need quorum, but not. Councillor Banford, well, Councillor Sims looking for.
Just a quick question, and maybe you can just forward the information on after this because our fire chief isn't here. Just wondering how we're doing that. Now that we got the grant with facilitating, fully equipping the trailer that we got for the wildfire situation. Since the fire at Jones Creek is out there now, it's just a matter of if we get that set up. It would be nice to have that certainly before the season progresses.
Absolutely. So once council had passed the first 3 readings of the bylaw, which meant adoption is inevitable, the fire chief had progressed to placing some of the orders for the equipment. I know that as I've signed some of the invoices, so I think that project is progressing quite well. However, we still do need to do some work on developing that policy, which is a requirement for not just council, but also part of the grant for renting the equipment out. So we're working on that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Sim, further?
Yeah, just I'm looking at the October 18th meeting for the standing committee plus the 2023 budget format. What's that? Any idea what that looks like? Just because I think there's an election 2 days later. I don't know.
Yeah, but remember, we actually, like, even with the election, if you're talking about our election, we actually look after the meeting after the election as well, if I remember correctly. It's not the first council.
And that's why I was just wondering what the budget format looks like. I don't know what that means. But that's okay. Let's save it for next month. Next week.
Anything further on CEO reports? Not seeing none. Award of tobacco contract. There's a staff report and a recommendation. Are there any questions of staff on the report? Councillor Taylor, fire away.
Thank you. So I know that this was an item in the budget, but can we confirm that the amounts were in line with what we had put in the budget? I just want to clarify that.
Did we make it close to what we budgeted?
Actually better. We're in,
In small, sorry, I'd just like to hear that again. In local government, we actually did better than we did on budget. Okay.
absolutely, to the tune of $38,000.
That's excellent. Great news. Thank you.
Can we have that put on a plaque that costs less than $38,000, please?
Everyone's figuring out how we can spend that $38,000.
You so read my mind.
Never mind. Okay, other than that question, are there any further questions on the fact that we get a shiny new backhoe and Public Works has a toy that's not a tool cat? That should last this much a longer time. Barrier did, I believe, come and pick up the old backhoe today, so that's on its way south and no longer our issue. So we'll take that win. So there is a recommendation. What is the will of council on the recommendation if there are no further questions? Moved by Councillor Sim, seconded by Councillor
I will
Haring.
second. Oh,
And
okay.
sorry, and Councillor Taylor, did you discussion?
No, I was just going to second, but
Okay.
we're going to fight over it.
Anyways, all those in favor of the recommendation, if there's no discussion, yay, we get a new toy. And then moving on to item 18.3, the BizPal program, which was new to me, but hey, here we go. So the report is there. There is a recommendation. Council approved the CAO signing a letter of intent as provided by the Ministry of Jobs, Economic Recovery and Innovation, so as to participate and benefit from the BizPal program. And I guess Wiley would probably be taking this on if we have questions of this, and we can see you back there. Hi, how's it going? Are there any questions on this? Or maybe you could just give us a brief explanation for us normal lay people as to what the heck this is all about. So. Lucy, can you hear that? No, can I? Lucy can't hear it at all, so maybe just
No, I'm getting nothing. Sorry.
just come up into John's chair for a minute.
Okay, so tell them how much I like the chair.
It's just, is the blue button on? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Hi. Okay, so the BizCall program is basically a provincial program that aggregates three levels of requirements from three levels of government in one location, so that when we have new business people, entrepreneurs who are looking to start up a new company and they want to know what they need to do, what permits are required or what licensing is required. This gives them a central location to go, and it provides them all the information in one area. So, and what happens is that right now, as I mentioned, we have a link to it on the ACKNOW site. And if you click on the link, it doesn't populate. By participating, Clearwater then becomes a named community. And then all of our information, as well as the federal and provincial information, comes forward. And so it's an easy way for people to access the requirements of our district, and should make it easier for the finance staff in terms of answering questions, because it'll aggregate all the information they need,
Basically, one-stop shopping.
pretty
and
much.
Hopefully reduces the number of conflicts between provincial, federal, and local regulations and requirements.
Sure, maybe.
Maybe?
It's always a good goal.
Council, any further questions on that? Councillor Banford, go ahead.
Thank you for the report. I think the report's quite in detail, which is nice. I guess my question is, understanding is it's sort of 2 to 4 weeks sort of your time and some of your time to get it set up. After that, is there a real staff time investment? Or if we load our bylaws into there, which maybe our subdivision bylaw, all the other bylaws that are in there, if we change any of those bylaws, is that going to be staff time again to re-update the whole system? How does that work? Does it automatically get updated?
Yeah, so we don't actually do any of the updating or uploading ourselves. So I will be working with the provincial staff and giving them our material. And they're responsible for all of the uploading and the design and formatting of the site. So we don't actually have to do any of that work. So if we change something, all we need to do is send it to them, and they will do all the back end work.
Further questions? Councillor Sim?
Make sure. So I read in the report that it was some staff time, but are you referring to the 2 to 4 weeks startup, or is it a month out of your time? Oh, yeah. So just to clarify that my time doesn't take, that's their time in terms of once we, it'll be a couple meetings of us and then my emailing a bunch of stuff to them. The 2 to 4 weeks is to give them time to upload and design everything.
Okay, that's how I read it. I got confused by your question. Okay, no.
Yeah.
It seems like it's kind of like a no-brainer. It doesn't seem like it's maybe the winner chicken dinner, but it's a nice trinket.
It's a start.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Any further questions on this? Not seeing Councillor Taylor putting your hand up for any. Okay, thank you. So there is a recommendation there, I believe. Ooh. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Taylor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor. Thank you for that. Okay. Yay, one more thing. Moving on to page 4 of the agenda. Bylaws, District of Clearwater, bylaw number 264, 2022 to 2026, 5-year financial plan. There is a recommendation that the District of Clearwater bylaw number 264, 2022 be adopted. Councillor Frizzle moves it. Councillor Haring on COVID brain. I've got COVID brain. Seconds it. Councillor Taylor, did you have a comment or are you just moving it? Okay. District of Clearwater 2022 5-year financial plan bylaw number 264, 2022. A bylaw to adopt the 2022 to 2026 5-year financial plan. Whereas section 165 of the community charter requires that council shall adopt a 5-year financial plan, and now therefore the council of the District of Clearwater in open meeting assembles and acts as follows. This bylaw may be cited as the District of Clearwater bylaw number 264, 2022 to 2026 5-year financial plan. All those in favor? And that passes. Yay, I like that. One less bylaw to read over and over again. And then moving on to bylaw 265, 2022 to 2022 annual tax rate bylaw. There are 3 recommendations there. Any questions of staff on this before we go to? If not, can I get a mover on recommendation 1? Okay, seconder by Councillor Taylor. District of Clearwater, 2022 annual tax rates, bylaw number 265, 2022, a bylaw to establish 2022 annual tax rates. Whereas pursuant to section 165 of the community charter, council has a 5-year financial plan for the period of January 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2026, and whereas the 5-year financial plan is presented has been considered and approved by council, and whereas it is necessary under section 192 of the community charter to establish tax rates to raise the revenue for municipal purposes identified in the year 2022 of the 5-year financial plan, and whereas to meet its taxing obligation in relation to other local governments or public bodies, certain amounts are to be collected for the year 2022 by means of rates established by the District of Clearwater. Now, therefore, the Council of the District of Clearwater in open meeting assembles and acts as follows. This bylaw may be cited as District of Clearwater 2022 annual tax rates bylaw number 265, 2022. All those in favor? That passes. As to recommendations, maybe 2 and 3. Councillor Frizzle moves that 2 and 3 be read together. We can do that. Seconded by Councillor Taylor. I see. Yes. Okay. District of Clearwater 2022 annual tax rates bylaw number 265, 2022, a bylaw to establish 2022 annual tax rates. Whereas pursuant to section 165 of the community charter, council has prepared a 5-year financial plan for the period of January 1st, 2022 to December 30th to 31st, 2026, and whereas the 5-year financial plan as presented has been considered and approved by council, and whereas it is necessary under section 197 of the community charter to establish tax rates to raise the revenue for municipal purposes identified in the year 2022 of the 5-year financial plan, and whereas to meet its taxing obligation in relation to other local governments or public bodies, certain amounts are to be collected for the year 2022 by means of tax rates established by the District of Clearwater. Now, therefore, the Council of the District of Clearwater in an open meeting assembles and acts as follows. This bylaw may be cited as the District of Clearwater 2022 annual tax rates bylaw number 265, 2022. All those in favor?
I just acknowledge and congratulate this team on the last budget of our term. Come to a close. And thank you,
Yes.
staff, for making a smooth process.
Thank you. No correspondence response required. Moving on to correspondence information items. Stop me if there's anything here you want to talk about. Letter from Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture. I did not. I had a conflict that day, unfortunately. I think Mr. Thomas was on that call for internet connectivity. Somebody I think from staff was. Yeah. Councillor Taylor. Yeah, Councillor Frizzle was asking if there's anything new on that. There wasn't anything new on that one. Invasive mussel defense program from Símpcwemc. They are on this one all the time. International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia.
Yes, please. Can we
Yes.
please fly the flag, please? It is a council day. It would be great if we could find a way to acknowledge International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia in council, if we can find something meaningful, and yeah, would love to get some thoughts on that, and maybe putting something out on Facebook as well, kind of acknowledging our support of this day.
It's on May the 17th.
I-
Councillor Sim, sorry.
I will ask the school district if they have any more of their pride shirts that we could, I'll just check about that and see if anybody's interested. I think it's a lovely idea.
Yeah, that would be great.
What day of the week is the 17th? Is that it?
It's Tuesday. It will be 2 weeks from today. It's our next
Oh, so
council
it'll be a
meeting.
council meeting. Okay, well, that's good.
Would there be enough time to actually look at doing t-shirts for the district?
I don't know if we get custom t-shirts, but I'm quite sure we could get t-shirts.
Maybe we each wear a color of the rainbow.
Ooh, there's 7 of us. That works out.
Well, I'm just even thinking staff, if they so feel it.
Mhm.
I think it's something to, let's bat that around by email, but yes, I think acknowledging the day. I don't know, I think we don't know if we have, I think we have a flag policy. Do we have a flag? Is it, or, so Mr. Thomas can ask us to clarify whether or not we have policy that allows us to raise the flag.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's we purchase one of these flags and we put it behind the mayor for council meeting.
Yeah, sure. I'm all in favor of that. My sister runs a club for this sort of thing based out of Williams Lake, and as part of Interior Health. I'm quite sure she could send me something out of her large suitcase. Go ahead, Mr. Thomas. Do we need a resolution on this? Yes. So Councillor Taylor, would you like to make a resolution that we at least hang a flag and maybe do something in this, acknowledge this day? At the next
Yeah,
council?
I'd make a resolution. If we don't have a flag, there is an offer. The letter actually is to provide us with a flag for $15. So I would like to make a resolution that we look to purchase a flag if we do not have one already, and look at the feasibility of if our flag policy allows us to raise it on that day. And that we explore other ways that we can acknowledge this day in our regular council meeting on May 17th.
Sounds excellent. Seconder on that. Second by Councillor Frizzle. All those in favor, and we'll let that one get filled out by staff and our students. Okay, thank you. Item 21.4, fall borrowing MFA. And the last one is North Thompson Arts Council. Nice to see that they're so active again. Lots going on in their local report here. Looks like they're really excited about having a in-person summer as well. I'm hearing that too. And apparently my mom was reading original poetry at the poetry. So there we
Wow.
go. Anyways, further comment, Councillor Sim?
Yeah, I just thought I've actually enjoyed receiving these minutes because I don't know if we ever would have known about it. And I wondered if there was a way to encourage in our meetings, if any other groups wanted to share what they were doing, like the
Yeah, no.
lively arts. Like it's just a great way to kind of get reconnected after separation and seeing where there's support, or we've struggled with what groups could we have. This I loved reading who was in attendance to the meetings and how we can maybe just bubble that up in the people that we speak to.
Yep, I think get that out there, newsletter or Facebook, and say, hey, do you have a community group that has meetings and you'd like to share them? We'll put them on the end of the council agenda. I mean, it's a great place to. We don't have a town crier, so we do have an agenda. We'll work on that. Great idea. No notices of motion. Lost my page. No in camera. Comments from the public. Annabelle, anything you'd like to ask about today? No. Okay, thanks for coming. Okay, motion to adjourn. Somebody stick your hat up. Councillor Haring. And you're out. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. 59
you.
minutes.
That's pretty awesome. You guys